Okay, it's day 64.5, and I am really trying to go to sleep, but I keep getting great comments on the website, so I keep following up. So this here, this nanotech, this looks like maybe it's close to the University of Central Punjab. It maybe looks like a place where you could meet with young medical people that were graduating from the university and maybe planning their trip to the United States. A recruiting center is what I guess I wanted to say. So that's an idea. Still, I looked and I saw a relationship with the University of Michigan's Nanotechnology Center in Ann Arbor. And I had been there to Michigan before and talked about the Michigan doctors, talked about the infiltration. That was the first point of infiltration in Ann Arbor and Detroit. Now, it's also good migration. These are also great doctors. But then underneath the great doctors, again, always the 10% of the cake underneath were these really horrible doctors that were doing all this kind of opiate targeting. And you can go back in my earlier versions and see that. So, and that started, again, over the Canadian border through Toronto, and then also through Montreal down into New York. So I looked at this comment here about Mukhtar Hamid Shah, and everyone was saying, hey, check this Mukhtar Hamid Shah out. Well, this is what I've been doing the reports on the last 3 days in a row, is this kidney center. The kidney center right here, that I've been in this last 3 days videos, that is Mukhtar Hamid Shah's kidney center, the one where there was 400 people taken. Now, they said, this commenter said, go to the United States Executive Order Annex, and this is Trump's most recent executive order on the 21st, a couple days ago. So, and he was one of the people that were sanctioned. Now, I actually met with somebody from the U.S. Treasury tonight, and she worked in the OFAC, which is the Overseas Foreign Asset Control. So she worked directly in the section in the area of FOIA. So I was able to follow up on a lot of this stuff, and I just didn't have time today to talk about it. But if you want to look at this, it kind of ties in everything we've been doing in this series. Gambia being a West African country, using gangs, to basically, this is going to be the car stealing and then torturing political opponents and journalists. I mean, it's just almost like a CIA. If you don't know the capital of Gambia, it's Banjul. It looks very nice, actually. But this was one of the Westies. This is one of those West African nations. And I ask everybody, all my Lyft cab drivers, I ask them to speak to me in French, and they say, "Oh, no, 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 that's not a French-speaking country." Cote d'Ivoire, and I met a guy from Liberia tonight, works for the U.S. government. We talked a lot about that. They speak English there, but these are all the target countries of Mr. Alpha Jola. Alpha Jola, I believe, is royalty, and he started over here in Nigeria and just worked his way from Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana. I believe it's Cote d'Ivoire speaks French, and then Burkina Faso. I've met people from all these countries now, multiple people, and I talked to them about these cars, this car trade that they've uncovered, that recently uncovered with this Operation Cassandra, and I want to talk to the key investigators in this because that's a story that just needs drill down. Let me go back to the foreign asset control. So I'll skip down here. One of the cases here is against a guy with Congo, taking all the mining assets out of Congo. So who knows if our stuff's getting to Trump? It doesn't really matter. If it gets to OFAC, which is this, overseas foreign asset control, that's all we care about, really, is that these human rights abuses or mining abuses get stopped there. So we've done stories about Bulgaria and different arms dealers and so forth. I'm not saying that we're responsible for all these, but I'm just saying at some level, at the lower levels, these folks do listen to evidence out there that's being accumulated, and they look into these things. And this is kind of a nice, here we've talked about Sudan so much. So we're bringing exposure to that, which is nice. And now here's the Mukhtar Hamid Shah, which they froze his assets. Now, what's interesting about this is the Treasury is seizing assets overseas, but are these the suspicious activity reports with Imran or not? When you read this, it says, first of all, Imran's dad's name Shah, but anyway, Shah is a Pakistani surgeon specializing in kidney transplants. Um, this incident in 2016, October, was 24 individuals, but there was a total of 400 that had been arrested, as I had reported earlier. Again, they were lured to Rawalpindi, the promise of a job, in prison for weeks. The person I was in with, the filmmaker I was with in Canada, talked about this, where if there was any kind of problem on the job site, and these are all the Pakistani guys that are kind of the police, that are military police, and they're bringing in people from Yemen and so forth to work in the UAE. If there's any kind of problem on the job site, they just toss them off the job. They just toss them off the 10th floor and then go recover the organs, and those become the next Cleveland Clinic or a Mayo Clinic donors. It just, there's no question of it that these practices and labor practices or this type of kidnapping thing happens over there. So the question I always ask is, how hard would it be to go into the Nanotech Center and learn all about how much your kidney is worth? I'm not saying that's what it is, but you could learn how much your kidney is worth, and if you're trying to finance your father's opium field in Sialkot, you could make 3 times more for your family, or maybe 10 times more if you just jump on a plane in Lahore and go to Montreal, or go to stay in one of those places in Virginia. So, just food for thought. We'll figure out what nanotech medical technology really is, if it's a recruiting service for doctors or a recruiting service for donors or whatever. It just could be a freestanding medical clinic. But why does Imran Awan start this company and now it's closed? Interesting. Interesting.